This episode is brought to you by FX's The Old Man. The hit show returns, starring Jeff Bridges and John Lithgow. The former CIA agent sets off on his most important mission to date, to recover his daughter after she's kidnapped. The stakes get higher and more secrets are uncovered. FX's The Old Man premieres September 12th on FX. Stream on Hulu.
Whoa. Landing an account this big will totally change my landscaping business. It's gonna mean hiring more guys and more equipment and new trucks for the new guys to drive the new equipment in. I don't know if I'm ready.
You can do this, and Ford Pro FinSimple can help. Our experts are ready to make growing pains less painful for your business with flexible financing solutions that meet the needs of your business today when you need them. Get started at fordpro.com/financing.
This is Optimal Health Daily. Waste Not, Want Not by Nancy Clark of nancyclarkrd.com. And I'm Dr. Neil Malik, your host. Welcome back to Optimal Health Daily, or welcome for the first time if you're new here. This is the podcast where I act as your very own personal narrator and read to you from some of the most popular health and fitness blogs online. All right, and with that, let's get right to it as we optimize your life. Waste Not, Want Not by Nancy Clark of nancyclarkrd.com. By 2050, we will be dealing with major food issues. By then, the global population will have grown from today's 7.6 billion people to 10 billion people. This is not due to lots of new babies, but due mainly to longer lifespans related to better healthcare and nutrition. We will need 60% more food than is available today. To do so, farmers will need to increase crop yield, use water more effectively, and feed animals more efficiently. The agricultural industry is working hard on that, and climate change complicates it all. As athletes, we like having plenty of food to eat and clean water to drink. Hence, we want to think about how we could invest in a sustainable future with our food and lifestyle practices. While we may suffer less from food shortages than will the people and athletes in less developed countries, we won't be able to escape these environmental problems. Problems like oppressive heat that not only damages crops, but also drains the fun from playing outdoor sports like soccer and tennis, or storms that disrupt plane travel for sports teams, as well as the flights of thousands of recreational athletes going to, let's say, New York City for a marathon, and floods that ruin farms and crops, as well as playing fields, and droughts that kill crops, golf courses, and gardens. The timely topic of sustainable diets and animal agriculture was prominent at the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Food and Nutrition Convention and Expo. The message was clear. We are facing the urgent need to curb greenhouse gas emissions to reduce our carbon footprint and invest in our future well-being. Here's some of what I learned from speakers Frank Mitloehner, PhD, professor and air quality specialist at the University of California, Davis, and Amy Myrtle Miller, RD, of Farmer's Daughter Consulting. Perhaps this information will nudge you to think more about how your food and lifestyle choices impact the climate and inspire you to make some changes. 1. Waste less food. Up to 40% of the food we produce gets wasted. About 16% of that happens at the farm, like sick animals not treated with antibiotics, unharvested crops due to large shortages, or ugly produce. 40% happens in food service and restaurants, and 43% in our homes. Who among us hasn't tossed out ugly apples, overripe bananas, and perfectly good leftovers? A huge contributor to food waste is the best used by date on food packages. Please note, the best used by date is not a don't eat this expiration date, but rather a marker for quality and freshness. Wasted food required energy to be produced and then transported to your supermarket and landfill. Wasted food takes up 21% of precious and limited landfill space. This represents the largest percentage of all waste in U.S. landfills. As it rots, it creates the greenhouse gas methane. To reduce food waste, you want to shop carefully, use leftovers, and compost food scraps. Restaurants, colleges, and other quantity food producers need to figure out how to find a meaningful home for leftovers, such as by donating to food pantries if permitted. 2. Eat less animal protein. Farm animals produce methane, so reducing the demand for meat is another way to help the environment. Yet it is not the biggest way to help. That's because meat and food production in general are not the leading causes of greenhouse gas emissions, despite what you might have read repeatedly in the recent past. Hence, you do not need to become vegan unless you truly want to do so. If everyone were to eat a vegan diet every day, greenhouse gas emissions might drop by only 2.6%. But you do want to eat meat less often and in smaller portions. If all Americans honored Meatless Mondays, the drop in greenhouse gas emissions in the US would be 0.5%. While not the cure-all for carbon emissions, every little bit helps. Instead of blaming methane-producing farm animals for contributing to climate change, the far bigger sources of greenhouse gas emissions are from the burning of oil, coal, and natural gas, or fossil fuels. The environmental benefits of eating less animal protein of any type pales in comparison to the benefits from reducing fossil fuel use. Using fossil fuels to create electricity accounts for 30% of all greenhouse gas emissions. Transportation accounts for 26%, and industry 21%. Agriculture contributes to only 9%, and animal agriculture alone about 4% of all greenhouse gas emissions in America. This number includes the carbon footprint of animals from birth to being consumed. To put this in perspective, a recent study showed that switching from a meat-based to a vegan diet for 1 year equates to the greenhouse gas emissions of one transatlantic flight from the US to Europe. And 3, educate yourself about the pros and cons of grass-fed beef. With conventional agriculture, corn-finished cattle are generally raised on pasture land first for about 10 to 12 months, and then finished on a corn-based diet for the last 4 months to optimize marbling. Grass-finished cattle spend a total of 26 to 30 months on pasture land before they are slaughtered. All of that time they are making manure, belching from the high-fiber grass diet and releasing methane. Corn-fed cattle produce far less methane and are content to eat the corn when well balanced into their diet. Yes, I know there are other reasons you might want to choose grass-fed cattle. I'm just talking sustainability here. Another way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions might be to start considering the possibility of eating protein-rich insects. I admit, I'm not there yet, but they are a sustainable source of protein. We just need more research to learn about the digestibility and bioavailability of insect protein and how to make it yummy. Solving the world's impending food and water crises is a huge global issue. We need governments around the world to look holistically at the complex interplay between the environment and food production systems. While we need to work together globally, each of us can act locally. How about biking more, driving less, and wasting less food, as well as eating less meat? The next generation will thank us. You just listened to the post titled, Waste Not, Want Not, by Nancy Clark of nancyclarkrd.com, and I'll be right back with my commentary. When you're hiring, it feels amazing to finally close out a job search. But what if you could get rid of the search and just match? You can with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites. One of the things I love about Indeed is that it filters out incompatible applicants. So when you're hiring, the process is much faster, and you only have to consider applicants that are already likely to be a great fit. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/health. Just go to Indeed.com/health right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/health. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
This episode is brought to you by FX's The Old Man. The hit show returns, starring Jeff Bridges and John Lithgow. The former CIA agent sets off on his most important mission to date, to recover his daughter after she's kidnapped. The stakes get higher and more secrets are uncovered. FX's The Old Man. All new Thursdays on FX. Stream on Hulu.
Dr. Neal here for my commentary. Nancy mentioned that it's important for us to educate ourselves on the topics she discussed in today's post, like the pros and cons of grass-fed beef, for example. Nancy mentioned that there may be other reasons why, when buying groceries, we might want to choose grass-fed cattle instead of cows that have been fed corn. One of the reasons there's been some pushback about feeding cows corn is that it may increase the amount of a harmful bacterium in their digestive tracts. This harmful bacterium is E. coli, and it's the particularly nasty strain of it, E. coli 0157H7. The problem is that this E. coli 0157H7 strain can spread around when cattle are slaughtered. That means this bacterium can get into the meat we end up consuming. So again, some studies have found that feeding cows corn increases the amount of this strain of E. coli in their digestive tracts. But we can lower our risk of getting sick by simply cooking beef to the proper temperature, and specifically ground beef. This is because ground beef has a higher risk of containing E. coli, and that's because of the way it's processed. So the goal is to cook ground beef until the internal temperature reaches 160 degrees Fahrenheit or 71 degrees Celsius. That will kill E. coli. Now, what about steaks? Steak isn't ground meat, and therefore steak doesn't carry the same risk for E. coli. So if you enjoy a medium rare steak or a steak that's not cooked to 160 degrees Fahrenheit or 71 degrees Celsius, that's probably fine. Again, these are just some things to consider when choosing which type of beef you buy. All right, that'll do it for another edition of Optimal Health Daily. I hope you're having a great weekend. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll be back here again with you tomorrow. So I'll see you there where your optimal life awaits.